Why China is terrified of India's military islands. This tiny island in the Indian Ocean is controlling China and could become China's worst nightmare the moment it tries to mess with India. Here is an incident that proves this. During 2020 clashes between India and China in Ladakh, India silently played a masterstroke 3,900 kilometers or about 2,500 miles away in the Indian Ocean near a choke point that if India had blocked could have brought the dragon to its knees in no time. Soon after the Galvan clash, the Indian Navy deployed its frontline vessels along the Malaca Strait. These moves made China so uncomfortable that they raised objections about the Indian warships' presence during the diplomatic level talks with the Indian side. These talks were not regarding some tensions in the Indian Ocean but rather to ease off tensions in the Galvan region. But why did China become so uneasy and raise objections about a move happening thousands of miles away from the conflict zone? The simple answer is that the Malaca Strait is known as China's primary maritime lifeline. Indian islands known as the Andaman and Nicobar are just 1029 kilometers or about 640 miles away from the Malaca Strait. In fact, the last Indian island of Great Nicobar Island is just 90 kilometers, about 56 miles from the western entrance of the Strait of Malacca. Let's understand why is the Malaca Strait known as a lifeline for China. China's economy survives on this one route called the Malaca Strait. The Strait of Malacca is a strategic waterway between Indonesia and Malaysia through which almost 67% of China's maritime trade and 80% of its oil imports pass through. In fact, it's not just China, more than one-third of all worldwide trade passes through the Malacca Strait. So the Malacca Strait getting blocked would be a nightmare not just for China but really for the entire world. And blocking such a point is much easier because all it takes is a few ships to block this very narrow route. And the last time such an incident occurred, the world faced a whopping loss of $54 billion in just 6 days. In March of 2021, the ship named Ever Given got stuck in Suez Canal, and on the same day, oil prices jumped about 6%. And that too, this 6% was when the world was facing the COVID pandemic. So this number could have been much higher if there was no pandemic. And the world lost $54 billion in just 6 days. So now you know why such a location is extremely important, and this is also why such locations are referred to as the choke points. At the first glance, it looked like the countries very close to the strait are Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and Myanmar. These countries might not block this route for China for a variety of reasons ranging from political to economic factors, and where most of them don't even have a rivalry with China. The fact that Andaman and Nicobar Islands also served as a strategic pit stop for naval vessels of partner countries including Japan and United States, Australia, and France make it even worse for China. This simply means that the naval vessels of these countries can make these stops for refueling, maintenance, or restocking supplies while they are on their way to their destinations. So along with India, this gives a huge advantage to the United States, Japan, Australia, and France to pause during operations in the Indian Oceans or before entering Southeast China Sea. And this enables faster responses to strategic or emergency situations, especially against China. In the event of military clash between China and the US over Taiwan, the US could ask India for support from these islands. But the important question is, if we know that this is a threat for China, then China must have analyzed this threat way back. Right, then why is China not doing anything to counter this sword hanging over its head? Actually they did, but here is why they couldn't do much about it. There are so many other routes in the region China can consider even if India blocks the Malaca Strait. For example, the Sunda, Lumak, and Makassar Strait in the Indonesian archipelago, and even other options like the Cebutu Passage or the Mindoro Strait. So in reality, there are a lot of other options to surpass the Malaca Strait, but it is not so simple. All alternative routes have their own drawbacks. They have some serious drawbacks. The water in this region flows with the powerful fast-moving currents, making it difficult for ships to pass through.